Now, although they thought it a bit weird, it seems the Romans had it right. According to a new study, Celtic women in British Iron Age society were more empowered than the Romans felt comfortable with. All well and good, but you're probably wondering how that's been figured out 2,000 years in the future. Let's see if we can find out. Genetic analysis of people buried in a 2,000-year-old cemetery in southern England has bolstered the idea that Celtic communities in Britain placed women centre stage, showing that women remained in their ancestral homes while men moved in from other communities, a practice that lasted for centuries. The work supports growing archaeological evidence that women had high status within Celtic societies across Europe, including Britain, and gives credence to Roman written accounts that were often thought to be exaggerated for Mediterranean audiences when they describe Celtic women as empowered. Hi there, welcome to the show. I'm Michael Bott.
I'm Rupert Soskin, welcome.
And we've got an incredibly wide-ranging study here, more than you might gather from the tenor of the headlines that have been going about. So, no surprises there, I suppose. Anyway, this time we're taking our cues from an article in the New Scientist, as it seems to reflect the breadth of the study more fully than most other articles. However, before we do that, did you know that right now we're less than 3,000 subscribers short of the 100,000 subscriber mark? If you've not already done so, it would be amazing if you could help us get to that milestone by hitting the subscribe button. Thank you so much. Also, we couldn't do what we do without the support of our Patreon members. Big shout out to all of them. What a wonderful bunch they are. And it doesn't take too much to join them. $5 a month is all it takes to get all the exclusive benefits on offer there. But if you want to find a way to say thanks to us in some way without doing a subscription thing, we have a campaign going on through the Buy Me a Coffee site that's funding our GÖBEKLI TEPE to STONEHENGE project. Now's not the time to go into what that's all about, but I'll put a link to the promo up in the corner, and there'll be a link down below too. Anyway, less about us. What about this study? Anything to say before we share the article?
Said that, man. Just a pointer right at the top, really. What makes this so exciting, really, is that this is a genetic study, and when you get into genetic analysis, then a lot of the sort of grey area of interpretations fall away. You're looking at actual data that is real, and what's so remarkable here is that we're looking at an Iron Age set of circumstances, where if you go back into the Neolithic, for example, what we know from major genetic analysis is, and we did a piece on this, that the excavations at Hazleton North in Gloucestershire, a 5,700-year-old long barrow, that there were no adult females in the burials. So that the females were marrying out, they were going and living with their husbands' families. Yeah. And this research seems to show that it's completely the other way around in the Iron Age. So that's all I want to toss in at this stage anyway.
I know.
It's a good thing to keep.
We'll be mentioning in a moment something that throws the whole thing back the other way again. Later on. Anyway, so I'll start reading the rest of the article. So it says, since 2009, human remains of the Durotriges tribe have been unearthed during excavations of an Iron Age burial site at Winterbourne, Kingston in Dorset, UK. The Durotriges occupied the central southern English coast from around 100 BC to 100 AD and probably spoke a Celtic language. And we're straight into that, actually, that little bit of irony, that little bit of twist around. Because did you know Winterbourne, Kingston, Dorset, is but a few miles from the Cerne Abbas giant?
That doesn't surprise me.
And what do we know the Cerne Abbas giant for?
What, apart from the fact that it's later?
And he's displaying his enormous member.
He is. He is.
Which
He is.
suggests some kind of celebration of a male dominance of. I'd just say, I'm not really trying to link the two, but it is
in the mix.
It is ironic, just a little bit, and he's later, according to the analysis from Mike Snailman.
Yes, Mike Allen.
Mike Allen, yes. We should get him back on the show again sometime.
Actually, we really should
talk about snails. No, but he's supposed to be the Cernabis giant is supposed to be Anglo Saxon. Now, I digress, and I'm going to be saying that quite a lot. I think, yeah. Anyway, onward. Human remains from Iron Age Britain are rare because prevailing funerary customs, including cremation or depositing bodies in wetlands, destroyed them. However, the Durotrickers buried their dead in formal cemeteries in the chalk landscape, which aided their preservation. Archaeologists have found that the Durotrigan women were more often buried with valuable items, suggesting high status and possibly a society focused on women. Do we want to say anything more about preservation of bodies in?
You know what? There are so
alkaline.
many different ways that we trying to stay focused on this research, but this also brought to mind, where they're saying here that the Durotrigan women were more often buried with valuable items, suggesting high status focused on women. And that really reminded me of the El Argar culture in Spain, because that's a Bronze Age culture. So, and you're talking about, I think, the height of their civilization, because their empire, for want of a better word, it was huge, and so centered in Spain. But so we're talking about 1,700 BC. So it's significantly before this. But the El Argar culture was very clearly women dominated. It's all the women that are buried in high status burials, and the men just not so much.
Yeah,
the personal jewelry, but nothing else.
Yes, yes,
so
indeed. We could wax lyrical about the El Argar culture. It's something that's so glossed over, I think, and there's really, really powerful centre, almost a state in its own right. Again, an avenue we could dive down, but probably not the thing. But but a really good point, to point out that there's a matriarchal society or women-led society back then. Lara Cassidy at Trinity College Dublin and her colleagues have Lara Cassidy, who remembers the incest at Newgrange study, which wasn't the main thing of the study that she did, but I mean, Lara is preeminent.
It's the thing that everybody latched onto.
Her name is bound to come up when we're talking about DNA and genetics here. Anyway, they've now analysed the genomes of 55 Durotrigan individuals from Winterbourne, Kingston, to untangle how they were related to one another and other Iron Age populations from Britain and Europe. Cassidy says that there were two big aha moments. Both were related to mitochondrial DNA, small loops of DNA that we inherit only through the maternal line, since they are passed down via the egg cell and don't integrate with other DNA. Now, we're getting into deep stuff. We won't pretend, Rupert, I don't think you will either, that we actually understand much about the nuances of ADN.
And going into the biochemistry isn't going to help the program anyway, is it? Yeah.
I'm just going to mention, though, this all trips off the tongue, and this is, this is distillation upon distillation of what's gone in the paper. We're not reading from the paper because you'd want to stick needles in your ears before too long.
That's not in any way a criticism. It's just that the paper is so deep with information. It's so rich in information that it would be a very dry hour and a half that we'd be sitting here going through stuff. Actually, out of, in fact, to be fair, as you said at the very beginning, that out of all the articles that have been published about this, the New Scientist one here is the clearest synthesis, if you like, of the paper, I think.
And interestingly, is the most human. I mean, in that it relates to how the archaeology has gone and the response to the archaeology. What I was trying to say was, though, these few words are the tiniest tip of the iceberg of the work that underlies it, the work, the years, the experience, and that is embodied in the paper. If you read it, link in the description. Anyway, I'll carry on. As the mitochondrial DNA results from each individual came in, the team noticed the same genetic sequence appearing again and again. It became apparent that more than 2/3 of the individuals were descended from a single maternal lineage, originating from a common female ancestor a few centuries earlier. My jaw dropped at that moment, says Cassidy. This is what I like about this article. This was a clear signature of matrilocality, or husbands moving to live with their wives' families, a pattern we've never seen before in prehistoric Europe. Patriarchality in which a woman moves to her male partner's community is usually the norm.
Do you know what? It's worth reiterating there what I was saying at the beginning about the excavations at Hazleton North. That here you've got the women in the burials here coming from a single female ancestor, and the genetics at Hazleton North showed that all the people buried through that, so it was 4 generations, a fifth if you include the dead baby, but I don't think that makes a generation. So 4 generations of burials in the Long Barrow, and they all come from a single male ancestor who had offspring with 4 women, but nevertheless it was a single male ancestor. So it is... gender-wise, it is completely the other way around from this.
Yeah. To find out if the matrilocal pattern was a distinct phenomenon of the Duratriges or Duratriges. It's not a beautiful word, Duratriges.
It's not.
I don't know why I'm finding it really hard to assimilate.
Yes,
to do with the way we're taught Latin. I'm sure it's not how they spoke it back then. It just seems so clunky. Anyway,
I haven't even looked up the etymology of that. Do you know what it is? It's another rabbit hole. I'm not going to do it.
No. A distinct phenomenon of the Duratriges, or if it could have been more widespread across Britain. Cassidy began trawling through data from an earlier large genetic survey of Iron Age Britain and Europe. Her jaw dropped again. She noticed cemeteries across Britain where most individuals were maternal descendants of a small set of female ancestors. It adds to the growing pile of evidence that Iron Age women were relatively empowered, says Cassidy. Matrilocality typically co-occurs with cultural practices that benefit women and keeps them embedded in their family support networks, she explains. Boudica, hello.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, not just Boudica.
No, up north, Cartimandua.
Yeah, well done, something like that.
No doubt I'll be putting something on screen that corrects my horrible...
Yeah. Yes. Yes, I mean, there are so many powerful women in the grey areas of history, aren't there, where it's yeah.
In modern societies, matrilocality has been associated with higher female involvement in food production, higher paternity uncertainty, and protracted male absence. In such societies, It is the man who migrates into a new community as a relative stranger and depends on his partner's family for his livelihood.
Do you know, I'm sorry. I'm just... I don't understand this paragraph at all, and I almost think that it has been wrongly copied and pasted from something else altogether.
I think there's a mistake in there somehow. It doesn't...
It's weird, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Always open to being shown to be wrong or that we've
absolutely
missed something, but on the face of it, no. Carrying on. Okay.
Yeah.
Men typically still dominate formal positions of authority, but women can wield huge influence through their strong networks of matrilineal relatives and their central role in the local economy, says Cassidy. No argument there. So here's the thing. Cassidy's team went on to compare the British DNA dataset with data from other European sites, revealing repeated waves of migration from the continent aligning with archaeological evidence. This showed that southern Britain was a hotspot for cultural and genetic exchange between 2500 BC. Sorry, I should get that proper paper, special paper for radio scripts, so don't crackle and when I turn it over. 2500 BC and 1200 BC during the Bronze Age, as well as during previously unknown late Iron Age influx at the time of the Duro-Triges. Previous studies have suggested that Celtic languages probably arrived in Britain between 1000 BC and 875 BC, but the new findings widen that window. Celtic languages were possibly introduced on more than one occasion, says Cassidy. I think I would just sort of expand that a little bit, because obviously language is a completely separate thing from the genetics of and DNA. The inference I think that they're getting is because that they've revealed that there's far more influx and exchange with the continent during that time. Then that leaves open the possibility, or suggests the possibility, that the crossing of the language, the coming of Celtic language or languages are not confined to such a narrow window. I mean, that's what it says, but I don't think it was
think
clear.
That, I mean, the simple thing is that anything Celtic, it's a cultural thing. It's not a genetic thing. It's not a race-related thing. Yeah. And what we have, how many remaining Celtic languages do we still have? 4 or 5? When there used to be 12, I think, originally. So it does show the influx.
Language and the migration and adoption of languages. There's a rabbit hole we could go down. Anyway, last paragraph, just finishing off. This is very exciting new research and is revolutionising how we understand prehistoric society, says Rachel Pope at the University of Liverpool. Sorry, Rupert?
Someone else we should get on.
Absolutely. At the University of Liverpool, who has previously found evidence of female-focused kinship in Iron Age Europe. What we're learning is that the nature of society in Europe before the Romans was really very different. Thus ends that article. I don't think there's kind of anything else, really. I hope that of all the articles that's out there has kind of clarified the elements of the paper.
Yeah. It's truly fascinating. I think when you look, what we can glean from aspects of archaeology, we know about the Scythians, for example. Are very powerful women in these in society, and as I mentioned before, the Argar society. There's what is it that creates these peaks and troughs in society, and what is it that ultimately leads to the oppression, potentially the oppression of one sex by another, one gender by another. It's really, really interesting, and it raises, you can look at so many different burials where clearly these are, whichever way you go, whether it's very important male figures or very important female burials. Look at the Egford girl, she must have been something special in Denmark. It's fascinating, and I hope this is just the tip of an iceberg of stuff that is going to become more apparent.
Well, I'm sure it will do, but I mean, talking about tips of icebergs, anybody that's tuned into us and consumes our content, we realise we have to skip from thing to thing. Although our personality-wise, our temptation is to go down all these rabbit holes and learn as much as we possibly can, so that we can deliver. But that unfortunately would slow us down a bit.
Yeah. In fact, there have been a couple of papers recently where the amount of, this is a good example of one where there are so many different aspects of this that you go, whoa, that's interesting. And you start looking, and then you've got paper after paper after paper that would be there for a month of Sundays.
Yeah, and we never get any content out because we're down all these rabbit holes trying to find out absolutely everything there is to know about something before we dare open our mouths. So forgive us for not knowing everything. But we,
we try. Do you know, there's something I do want to clarify, though. That paragraph that I was really being very picky about, that Lara Cassidy, there are lots of quotes from Lara through this, and that paragraph is not a quote. Lara did not say that, and it's a shame that we don't have a phone number for her, or because we've tried to get her on before actually, but we haven't been able to make dates tally. We'll try again. But it was just that we're picking bones out, bones out of something, and Lara didn't say that. It might just be a weird error of some sort in this article.
Well, in the world of things that Lara didn't say, or rather Lara did say but have been misinterpreted, her jaw-dropping quote has been taken and mangled in some bits of the press as making it out that she's, or the jaw-dropping is a great headline thing, but it's been taken out there to mean that it's jaw-dropping, that females should have been perhaps in charge way back then. That's not what she's being jaw-dropped about at all. It's about the archaeological thing of actually having evidence that says that. It's not about the fact of females being more empowered. It's the fact that the archaeology supports it. That's what's jaw-dropping for her. And I hope if anybody's seen any of the articles saying otherwise or detracting, that's the other side of the coin. All right, with that, I think it's time to say ta-ra for now, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you've found that interesting, educative, and a little bit entertaining, perhaps. We do our best. Till next time. Folks. Bye-bye.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Very good. Right. Onward to the next one then, Rupert. What shall it be? Who knows?
Gruel.
Gruel.
Got to do gruel.
Got to do gruel.